For decades, the whole story around Alzheimer's has been about what's added to the brain, right? These toxic plaques and tangles that build up. But what if we've been looking at it completely backwards? Today, we're going to dive into some truly groundbreaking research that just flips that entire script on its head.
And that one question that's really at the heart of everything we're talking about today. It's a pretty radical idea when you think about it. It completely shifts our focus. Instead of fighting some kind of foreign invader, what if we just need to restore something fundamental that's been missing all along?
All right, so our story really kicks off with a big scientific investigation. Researchers have suspected for a long time that things in our environment, especially different metals, might play a role in Alzheimer's. But honestly, most of the studies focused on the usual suspects, the potentially toxic effects of metals like iron or copper or zinc. This team, though, they decided to cast a much wider net. And when I say a wider net, I mean it. They meticulously analyzed the levels of 27, that's right, 27 different metals in the brains of older folks. They looked at everyone, people with no cognitive issues, people with that early stage known as mild cognitive impairment or MCI, and of course people with full-blown Alzheimer's.
And the results? Well, they were absolutely revealing. Out of all 27 of those metals, only one stood out: lithium. It was consistently and significantly lower in the brain at the very earliest stage of the disease, that mild cognitive impairment stage. And we're not talking about a small dip here. This was the single most statistically significant change they saw. Okay, so that leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Is this low lithium just a symptom, a consequence of the disease already happening? Or could it actually be one of the very first dominoes to fall, something that's actively driving the disease forward? To figure that out, the researchers had to dig a lot deeper.
And they discovered something truly fascinating. It turns out the amyloid plaques themselves, the infamous hallmarks of Alzheimer's, were acting like little lithium traps. Think of them like sponges. The plaques were literally soaking up whatever lithium was available in the brain, which just makes a bad situation so much worse. It's like the disease is actively starving the brain of this critical element as it gets worse. This, of course, led to the next big question. What actually happens when the brain is deprived of its own natural lithium supply? To get to the bottom of it, the team turned to mouse models to put this whole lithium trap idea to the test.
So they set up a really clear, elegant experiment. They took mouse models that are prone to developing Alzheimer's and split them into two groups. Group 1 got a normal diet. Group 2 got a diet that was identical in absolutely every way, except for one thing. It had basically zero lithium in it. And what happened next? Well, it was pretty staggering. First off, the mice on that lithium-deficient diet, they developed way more amyloid plaques in their brains, a significant increase. So boom, right there you have a direct link between a lack of lithium and a speeding up of one of the main problems in Alzheimer's.
But it didn't stop there, not even close. Those same lithium-deficient mice also showed a massive 3- to 4-fold increase in something called phospho-tau. And if you follow this research, that's the toxic protein that forms those neurofibrillary tangles inside the brain cells. The other major hallmark of the disease.
And here's what really matters, right? This wasn't just some abstract thing happening at a molecular level. The mice with low lithium suffered from accelerated cognitive decline and major memory loss. This is what brings all the data out of the lab and shows you the devastating real-world impact of missing this one simple element. Okay, so we've established that low lithium is bad, really bad. But how? How does it actually cause all this damage? Well, the researchers were able to pinpoint a really critical mechanism inside our cells, and the best way to think about it is like an overactive switch. This switch is an enzyme called GSK3 beta. Now, in a healthy brain, it's kept under really tight control. It does its job, and that's it. But in Alzheimer's, this thing is known to go haywire. It becomes hyperactive, and that hyperactivity actually drives the formation of both plaques and tangles. And what the researchers discovered is that our own natural internal lithium is one of the main things that keeps this switch from getting stuck in the on position.
So you can see how this creates just a devastating chain reaction. Step 1, your natural lithium levels drop. Step 2, that GSK3 beta switch gets stuck on. In step 3, this hyperactivity kicks off a horrible cascade of events. It triggers inflammation. It causes you to lose synapses, the vital connections between your brain cells. And as we saw, it puts the pedal to the metal on forming more plaques and tangles. So now that they understood the problem so deeply, you've got this lithium deficiency and you've got these plaque traps, it led the team to a really clever idea for a potential solution. They realized they couldn't just give people more of the standard lithium that's used in medicine. Nope, they needed something a little bit smarter. See, the standard form, lithium carbonate, gets snatched up really easily by those amyloid plaque traps we just talked about. So the researchers went looking. They screened a bunch of other forms of lithium, and they found one, lithium orotate, that had a totally different chemical property. It was much less likely to get stuck in the plaques, which meant it could actually get to the brain cells that were desperate for it.
And the results of using this new form were just wow. In older mice that already had advanced Alzheimer's-like problems, a really low dose of this plaque-evading lithium orotate cleared out about 70% of the plaque. That is a massive reversal of damage that's already there. But look, clearing plaques is one thing. Here's the part that really matters. The treatment didn't just clean up the brain, it restored function. Those mice with major memory problems, their cognitive function recovered almost completely. I mean, that is the holy grail, right? Reversing the most devastating symptom of the disease.
And this is where the implications get even bigger, because they go way beyond just treating Alzheimer's. It makes you ask, what if just maintaining the right level of this natural element is a key part of healthy brain aging for all of us?
Well, the researchers tested exactly that. They gave that low-dose lithium orotate to perfectly normal aging mice. And the results were just so powerful. It helped prevent age-related cognitive decline. It preserved their synapses. It calmed down inflammation. And it even seemed to rejuvenate the brain's cleanup crew, the microglial cells. It was basically like a full-spectrum anti-brain aging treatment.
And crucially, let's be clear, this isn't just a mouse story. When the scientists went back and looked at their human data, they found something that tied it all together. In older adults who did not have dementia, the ones with naturally higher levels of lithium in their brains also performed better on cognitive tests. That strongly suggests that keeping our lithium in balance is a huge factor in our own cognitive resilience.
You know, the study's authors really said it best. They suggest that a disruption in our natural lithium balance might be one of the very first things to go wrong, contributing to that long, silent period, sometimes decades long, where the damage of Alzheimer's is building up long before anyone notices a single symptom.
So we end up right back where we began, with a big question. But now, it feels full of so much more possibility. Could maintaining the balance of a simple natural element, something that's been part of our biology forever, be one of the most important things we can do to protect our minds as we age? It really feels like this could be a missing piece of the puzzle that might just change everything.